You're good.
All right. It is 5:30. We'll call the meeting to order. And we'll ask the Justice of the Peace, Steve Spoon, Pastor Phil, lead us in a prayer and pledge, please.
2 Chronicles 20. Jehoshaphat's going against three kings and he asks, man, we're in trouble. So he says, let's pray. He says this prayer in verse 12 says, Lord, we don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you. Father, we pray as we have to make decisions, these men and women having to guide our city forward. Father, I pray often that we'll come to that humble ability to say, we don't know what to do always, but our eyes are on you. Father, I pray we can do that, not just in a city meeting, but in our homes, and our families, our businesses, that we can look to you to guide us, to strengthen us, to give us hope, encouragement, peace, and victory. Father, we just put this meeting before you in Jesus' name. We ask you to guide the decisions that are made, the choices that are done, in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You guys have
Steve, thank you, sir.
Now I know which
And
one was free.
Yeah.
Now we still got the episode.
We'll go down to the open forum and check with the city secretary.
Yes, sir, we do have one speaker today. We have Elizabeth Power.
Yes.
Okay, Elizabeth. Wait a minute.
I'm addressing the city council today for the purpose of enlisting your help in improving the overall health of our senior citizens, primarily through extending the water aerobics class through August. Right now, it currently runs from the first Tuesday in the end of May after Memorial Day weekend to the first, I think we're at the first end of the first week of August. So we would be looking to expand the operational hours between 8:30 and 9:30 Tuesday through Friday, starting August 6th through Friday, August 30th. I don't think it's any great surprise that we have a very aging population here in Breckenridge. And with that comes an increase in mobility issues, primarily balance, muscle weakness, support, overall health and well-being. We also have an increase in comorbidities. Our aging population is more prone to cardiac events, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, osteo and rheumatoid arthritis, the increased incidence of obesity. Walk around Walmart, you'll see it. All of those lead to physical problems that make it difficult to exercise on land-based exercise uses. Also, our seniors are on fixed income. And lots of times the water aerobics program within the city park is the only exercise they can perform and the only exercise more often that they can afford. Our nearest facility would be in Graham, which is 45 minutes away. It requires a membership to their wellness center in addition to full usage. It just isn't possible physically or feasibly for many of our people. Our class is made up primarily of elderly men and women over the age of 60. They are fanatics, so to speak. They never miss a class. They look forward to it. And I can tell you the results and the outcomes for them, an increase in overall strength and muscle mass for them, which means better well-being, an improvement in balance leading to fewer falls, fractures, and concussions, effective pain management for many of these people, where they don't have to be relying on pain medication as much or to the greater degree. It also improves mood. It is a tremendous look toward the mental illness and issues that face the elderly and any of those who are post-cardiovascular incident. So it does help with depression. It does help with loneliness. It does provide a much needed social interaction for many of these people, and they do watch out for each other. It is affordable and it's easily accessible for many of these people. I've included in these packets letters of recommendation from each of the physicians. I also have Summer Russell's approval. She heads up the committee to improve the wellness of public health within the city. I'd like for you to look through them. I'll read the first one quickly. This is from Dr. Windsor. I'm writing to request that you keep our city pool open for water aerobics at least through the month of August. I prescribed water aerobics for some of my patients and witnessed the benefits related to relieving joint pains, improving cardiovascular fitness, and relieving depression symptoms. Stevens Memorial Hospital is building a pool in our therapy department, but this is a very slow process due to CMS regulations as well as funding, so that is years out in the future. Also, I would like to just finish by saying, for your informational purposes, the participants would still pay their $2 fee for their admission fee as they would come. And in the past, the issue has always been we've not had the adequate lifeguard staff to do this. We have spoken to all the city pool managers that are currently employed. They are all willing to have their time extended if possible. They make a total of $15 an hour, which is an additional $240 is all that's asking. They have expressed an interest for that 16 additional hours. So if this is something we would really appreciate the city council voting favorably to extend, not just for this year, but into the future years as well, until we can get some other facility open with an indoor pool where they can exercise year round. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
any questions?
Very well self-explanatory.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Was that the only one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll go down to the staff report and I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I wanted to give you an update on several projects. I'm gonna start with the Fire Ad Hoc Committee. I have given this an update before, but the problem that we have at the fire station is the living conditions of our firefighters. And so what we've been doing is meeting with community members on that, brainstorming and analyzing solutions to that problem. Essentially what we've landed on, and you know, I will be bringing this back as an action item at a future date. I'm waiting on an update for a financial plan, so that's kind of the bottom line. But right now, where we kind of landed was basically three phases, a three-phased approach. And that would be the purchase of a man camp from RGN. Current estimate pricing is about $65,000. And that would be placed on the parking lot north of the fire station. And phase two would be the demolition of the existing fire station. And then phase three would be building a new metal building on that slab that is remaining there. The existing bays, metal building bays would stay, and we might have to do, you know, we've talked about that because there's what, two bays?
Two bays in the old fire station.
Existing, so, you know, we'll have to look at that as well. So that's in a nutshell. I mean, we did look at, just so you know, some of the, you know, solutions and brainstorming was just a new building on new land. The challenge there is geographically, we want to keep it, at that central, about that location, because that is the easiest for response times to get to 183 and 180. And so there was one piece of property that would be a potential, but again, it really kind of came down to dollars, I think. What we're presenting is actually probably the least expensive. You know, other things that we looked at were a metal building on the existing land in front of the existing bays. So leaving the fire station there, but putting it in front of the existing bays where those trees are. The challenge there is that we would have another empty building. Of course, another solution that was looked at was, you know, renovating the existing fire station. And that can be cost prohibitive. I mean, you've got to bring it up to ADA. You've got, it's concrete building, and there's some concrete in the structure that's, you know, I mean, the front half, and Malcolm, you can probably describe this, but the front half, you know, there's an auditorium up top, but then the bottom half, there's like this 2-foot concrete, you know, part of the structure of the building, cutting it in half. So that's been a challenge. So I think that is going to be, you never know what you're gonna get in a renovation. So that actually probably would be almost the most expensive. So what we're still looking at is, you know, as you guys know, because this happened before I got here, but there was a partnership between the Industrial Foundation, EDC, the county and the city, to fund those bays that are there. And so, you know, I'm in discussion with those entities about, you know, another funding partnership. What that looks like, I still don't have the details of that. You know, trying to set up a meeting this next week. And I'll bring that back to you guys for consideration, and that's probably when it would be more of an action plan, when I have more concrete details about what that plan would cost and where, you know, how it would actually be phased in. So when you look at it, that third phase is a new metal building on that, and that estimate is anywhere, you know, we have to go through, you know, the RFP process for all of this, but you know, just in the bids, you know, trying to get information, it can be anywhere between $500 to $1 million, but we're thinking probably 750. We could get by, it would just be very, you know, very basic. The benefit is that you wouldn't have another empty building
Yeah.
in the city. That's, you know, further deteriorating out of, you know, non-use. So that's where we're at with that. Again, we'll be bringing that back as an action item, when I have more solid details on moving forward with a financing plan and seeing, you know, where you guys are at on that. Are there any questions right now on that?
If Malcolm and them had taken better care of it, we wouldn't need to do that. I mean, yeah, the building's a few years old, but
Just a few. It's a beautiful
how,
building.
just in any idea?
It's 103.
Wow, I knew it was somewhere in there. Yeah.
And we also explored the option today. We haven't got the results yet of leasing the temporary housing. We're getting that and we haven't got that information yet. We have a Zoom meeting this afternoon. That might be another option. We don't know yet.
Right. So there's, you know, there's still a lot of moving parts, but I did wanna, you know, update you and let you know, I mean, that is, you know, one of our goals is invest in our employees. And when we look at the living conditions up there, you know, really needs to be addressed. So we're trying to come up with some solutions to present to you guys. Any other questions on that? Okay, so, the next one on the downtown revitalization project, we had the kickoff, construction meeting. As you guys may remember, it's AHJ Concrete is, the construction project was awarded to with the RFP. We had that meeting June 26th. The notice to proceed date is July 15th. They probably won't be starting July 15th. It'll probably be a week or two after that. It is a 4-month project. It's 120 contract days. So they will have 4 months, which puts it at November, December of 2024 that project would be done. And as a reminder, that is right here at this corner of Rose and Elm, sidewalk improvements. Because the bid came in low, the project was 500,000, the grant, and that they came in a little over 300,000. And so we've got extra money and we've got a plan to be adding the section of Elm Street from Rose through the McCamus intersection to redo that road, and potentially, depending on, and the engineer is still developing opinion of probable cost on that. Not Walker to McCamus, but a Walker to Elm, but Elm to the next block north of that. That would be another option if we've got some money, or Dyer Street from Rose East 1 block to Court would be another potential section that we could do. And that would be, you know, milling it up and then doing the overlay, kind of similar to what they did, did on Walker. So that's where we're at on that. That project, should be done by the end of the year. I do have, details on the splash pad. I was gonna do that in my city manager report, but I'm gonna go ahead and just give you those details. We have an agenda item and where you guys will be voting on submitting that application. So I'll give you the details on the splash pad, under that agenda item, since we do have that agenda item. And then the other thing I did want to let you know, so the sand volleyball has been very popular, which we're very excited that citizens are really enjoying that. We did the sand volleyball court and the lighting. We did have a business contact us and they wanted to donate bleachers. And that business is Vault Nutrition, and so they donated bleachers. If you haven't driven out there on Wednesday, we had some people organize game leagues basically, and they play until 11, 12 at night. They've got, like this last time, it was 20 or 14? 14 teams, and so it's been very popular, so we're excited that people are using it. Anyway, we appreciate that donation from Vault Nutrition, the bleachers out there. Upcoming events, July 4th, obviously, is this week, and there's a lot of organized fireworks shows, Boom Fest, the Chamber and Stowe, and I believe Clear Fork Bank are sponsoring the Boom Fest out at the lake. And then of course Canyon has one as well, and I think there's a couple of other ones around. We do have a burn ban in place, of course, for inside the city limits. Boat pickup will be July 18th. I think that's. And then we have, you do have the department head reports in your package. And then we do have our employee of the month, and it is from the fire department. So I'm gonna ask the fire chief, Malcolm, to come up with this row.
What am I gonna say about her? What am I gonna say about her? So, well, as y'all know, in the fire department, we wear a lot of hats. We don't just do fire, we do code enforcement, building inspections, planning and development. Me and Wesley get out and do most of the footwork, but she keeps us organized, pointed in the right direction, where to go, what to do. I mean, she is the brains of the organization, I promise you, and the organizer.
We all know. We do that without you saying.
She keeps all those kids over at the fire station herded like a little herded cat, so. She does good and we could not do without her.
Again? Thank you, Malcolm.
You're welcome.
You did good.
Very hard.
Did you give them those notes before the meeting?
Yeah, you gave me clip notes.
All right, way to go. We go to public hearing items, open public hearing at number 4. Conduct a final public hearing for the Breckenridge Comprehensive Plan Tech CDBG contract number CPC 2201-0522. And I'll check with the city secretary.
We need to open it at.
48.
Okay. And we've got Ken.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Once again, this is the plan that we had presented to you guys last month, and this is for the grant, so we're doing a final public hearing on this, and the resolution later this evening, and this thing will be ready to send over to the department for their review and final approval. And after tonight, then we'll start working on some fun ordinances in the next rest of the year, pretty much. So be working on adopting a new zoning ordinance and some new subdivision regulation as a result of this planning work.
And I didn't have anyone sign up to speak, so.
Okay.
Y'all have any questions for me And I think y'all got a few hard
Well, we'll
copies.
do that under the, action item.
Okay.
All good, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now you'll just close the public hearing.
And we'll close it at 5:50. Consent agenda, any commission member may request an item on the consent agenda to be taken up for individual consideration. Item 5, consider approval of the June 4th, 2024 regular commission meeting minutes as recorded. Item 6, consider approval of resolution 2024-16, City of Breckenridge investment policy. Item 7, discuss any necessary action regarding approval ordinance 2024-11, approving the City of Breckenridge water conservation plan and drought contingency plan.
I'll move to approve consent agenda items 5 through 7 as presented.
Second.
Both the second, all in favor? Aye. None opposed. Thank you, sir. All right, at this time, we're gonna go into the executive session. And pursuant to Texas Government Code and Ordinance Chapter 551, Subchapter D, Texas Open Meeting Act, the Act, City Commission will recess in executive session, closed meetings to discuss the following. Consult with attorney, 551-071, 1 or 2. Consult with attorney regarding pending anticipated litigation or a settlement offer or a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Code rules of professional conduct of the state of Texas clearly conflicts with the chapter. And this will be item 8 under animal control. And we will go into that at 5:52 p.m. All right. Reconvening open session at 6:42 p.m. In accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551, the City Commission will reconvene into open session and consider action, if any, on matters discussed in executive session. At this time, there is no action taken. Go on to action item 9. Discuss and any necessary action regarding a request to replat the property at 303 South Jackson, currently legally described as Walker Caldwell 11 edition, block 35, lot 8, 9, and N-48 of 10 into 2 lots. One lot will measure 8,400 square feet, the other 12,320 square feet. The property owner intends to sell the lots.
So Mayor, and Commissioner, the Planning and Zoning Commission, did review this request during a meeting held on Tuesday, June 25th. This is what is right now. It's 3 pieces of property. It's platted in 3 there. And this is what is proposed. They're proposing to replat that into 2. And that's all this is. One will be 8,400 square feet, which meets our minimum, and then one will be 12,320. So, and the P and Z did unanimously recommend approval. You guys consider approval.
Question, motion?
I move to approve the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation to replat the property at 303 South Jackson as presented.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Item 10, discussion and any necessary action regarding ordinance 2024-12, updating chapter 4 animals and fowl.
So this is an ordinance update. Primarily what this is to be in alignment with the latest state statutes. And I'm gonna turn it over to our attorney if you just kind of want to highlight the changes.
Yeah, sure. Mayor and Commission, there were some state law updates that came out regarding unlawful restraint of animals, of dogs, in 2021. And then there was, legislation that came out that was effective September of 2023 regarding regulating the keeping, of livestock as an agricultural operation. So we've gone through and updated the ordinance to comply with that. And then in doing so, there's been various updates here and there to things that maybe didn't catch all of them, changing the reference to the fee schedule, to the police department when we switched over to the police department overseeing everything. So we've updated those. We've updated some other things involving the city's impoundment of animals, the city's acceptance of animals that are impounded or at least are surrendered to the city, and kind of made it more of a discretionary for the city to accept animals in certain cases. And I think that pretty much sums it up. You guys have any other questions?
Anybody questions? Motion on that then, please.
Move to approve ordinance 2024-12, updating chapter 4, animal fowl.
Second. Motion second, all in favor? Aye. None opposed? Thank you. Item 11, discussion and any necessary action regarding approval of resolution 2024-18, accepting the Breckenridge Comprehensive Development Plan, TXCDBG, contract number CPC 21-0522.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. This is a resolution that's required by the grant to accept the plan so that we can send it over to them for their review. Basically, they're gonna look at it. They're not gonna really comment too much on content. They're just making sure that we've met the requirements of the contract that you guys have with TDA.
So just to back up a little bit, and remind you, this was a grant that we got for 55,000. Public Management is our grant consultant on this, and they've been working on this with staff. It has, gone, as you know, it was presented to P and Z, and then it was presented to you as well last month. And then P and Z looked at it again, took action recommending approval, and that is here before you now. There is the city's match on this is $8,500.
Yeah, and that's already been taken care of.
This is just to get us going in.
This is what?
This where we need to go. I mean, this just gets us started on this thing.
Well, and you know, he was here last
Yeah.
month, I was gonna say
Yeah.
last year, and he went over that all,
Yeah.
you know, but basically this serves as a long-range planning
Yes.
document.
Yeah.
It includes, you know, updating the parks plan, the base mapping, land use analysis, housing inventory, population analysis. I mean, we haven't had an update to a comprehensive development plan since 67. So obviously it's long overdue. It's great that we got a grant. And so it really, there has been an uptick, I think, in development for Breckenridge. I mean, we're certainly not the Metroplex, but I think we're gonna continue to see that as things, you know, the population continues to expand. People kind of want to get away from that.
And of course, yeah, like Cynthia's saying, and then of course, remember we went over the water and of course Sage and their group had helped me with that over some of the needs that we're gonna need, not just right now, but we're gonna need to cover, you know, to 2040 is kind of how we projected out on this plans. And, you know, we went through streets work that you guys been doing, sewer needs and the water needs. And we talked about the housing and population needs. And the park plan, which is gonna be, it's already gonna be, there's some of these things that were, this plan's already gonna be helpful. We've submitted that to Parks and Wildlife for approval, and hopefully that's gonna help you guys scoring on your park application. So that's how this plan will come in handy or come in use for you guys. It's also, you know, as you're going through budgets year after year, you're kind of looking at, okay, what do we still need to do with streets? What do we need to do with water and sewer and this?
Sounds easy enough.
That's, and of course, like we talked about, some of the tools will be the ordinances that we'll be kind of working on after we have moved past this phase.
Questions, anyone? Have a motion then, please.
I move to approve resolution 2024-18, accepting the Breckenridge Comprehensive Development Plan, TXCDBG, contract number CPC 21-0522.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Unopposed?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
The item 13, discussion any necessary action regarding approval of resolution 2024-17.
We're at 12.
I'm sorry, 14,
12.
where did I jump off? Okay, I'm sorry, pardon me. Discussion any necessary action regarding the adoption of ordinance 2024-10, prohibiting drilling and mining in the public parks of the city of Breckenridge in relationship to the Texas Parks and Wildlife 2025 local park grant.
So just a little bit of background on this. The city of Breckenridge had an ordinance preventing drilling and other related activities in our parks under ordinance 8914. In 2016, ordinance 2016-17 repealed several ordinances. And this was the quote, having determined that certain provisions regarding alcoholic beverages, drilling operations, finance and taxation, noise control, occupational licenses and regulations, and certain offenses are outdated and should be modernized and revised to comply with state law. I think this is something that maybe fell through the cracks, that we didn't reinstitute a prohibition to drill in our city parks. And so this kind of closes that gap. The TDA, they no longer require this, but Parks and Wildlife, I'm sorry. Parks and Wildlife no longer requires this, but it is helpful in our application for the local grant. So we will be including it in there, and that's the next.
Okay. Questions? Motion, please.
Move to approve ordinance 2024-10 as presented.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, thank you. Item 13, discussion and necessary action regarding approval of resolution 2024-17, authorizing the submission of an application to Texas Parks and Wildlife for the 2025 local park grant.
So this is, and I'll call you up, here in a second. So as a result of our strategic plan adopted in 2023, one of the things that came out was the desire for a splash pad. And so, we began working with public management. Morgan is the person that, we've been working with on this particular grant. There is, it's a 50% matching grant, up to 750, which means the limit for the grant is like 1.5 million. So our match is a max of 750. Right now, you do have, and essentially what this is going to include is a splash pad, site improvements, electrical enclosure, lighting, sod, irrigation, potentially retrofitting the baby pool to bring that into ADA compliance. And as you remember, Jacobs and Martin were the engineers that submitted the winning bid, and public management, of course, were awarded as the grant administrator. So right now there's a draft budget that is in your packet. Do you have that? Yeah. And so this is, again, this is a draft budget, but I think, it's pretty close to the numbers that we're looking at. It does include a contingency of 10%. If you want, can you go to the next? Morgan, if you don't mind, you'll explain better kind of the overmatch and just the grant process.
So we did work with the city and Jacob Martin to put this budget together based on the splash pad, as well as connecting the splash pad to be ADA accessible from the pavilion. And then the baby pool improvement or the wading pool improvements, and then provide ADA access to the wading pool and then into the wading pool. And so this budget reflects all of that. This is all preliminary. And so once the city, when and if awarded, the engineer will be able to evaluate everything a little bit more in depth and provide better numbers. And so if we have to kind of reprioritize, then we can do that at that time. Right now, this just encompasses all of the anticipated work. As far as the budget goes, it is split 50-50, except for $18,094.
That's because the grant only allows for a maximum of 12% of professional services to be a part of the grant and match, and so you can consider it match or overmatch, but that 18,000 is just beyond the 50% exact number, so total city match is $431,122.
So she has provided us with, draft language. We can go out to, we are gonna be going to the community for letters of support in the grant application. We can go out, and actively seek donations, that could help us out. Just as a reminder, we do have, the interest from the COs, will probably be right around 400,000, give or take, depending on what happens with interest rates. But I think that we'll be able to cover cities matching the CO funding, primarily, so, but we're also gonna try to, go out for donations. This is a projected timeline. The start date was 6/1. The application deadline is the 1st of August. And then you can kind of see that's the generic, pretty good timeline, I think, right?
Ideally, you would get notified of award probably late fall, winter, and then the contract would ideally start early next year. So.
And those are all the components, and this is the layout of it. That's the ADA, from the splash pad to the, pavilion that she was mentioning. And then, the baby pool down here, that's a rendering of what that would look like.
And the only edit that I might propose we make is to the budget, and this is to break out landscaping. Emma did include that in the budget. But I think I'm gonna recommend that we break it out in the OPC, because that does contribute to points for the city if we do landscaping. And then probably just plot some, trees, bushes, some plants somewhere in the area, so. So yeah, it's tonight is to approve a resolution authorizing y'all us to submit the application, and then we will submit it by August 1st. Kind of fine tune it and between now and then.
Any questions?
Question two? Motion then, please.
Move to approve resolution 2024-17 as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? None opposed?
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
I
Ann.
did want to
Yes, sir.
publicly thank both Ken, Kanye and Morgan. I mean, been very helpful with comprehensive development plan and obviously with the splash pad so far. So I appreciate, y'all's partnership work about that.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. We appreciate y'all.
Really
Thank you,
enjoyed
man,
it.
over here.
Awesome, thanks.
We'll see y'all.
Take care.
Y'all have a good night.
All righty. Thank you, Marvin.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Item 14, discussion and necessary action regarding Texas Municipal League Joint Cyber Liability and Data Breach Response Self-Insurance Fund, interlocal for cyber security.
So just as a little background, of course, I think you guys know we use TML for our insurance. And that's property insurance, workers' comp. We have been also paying for a cyber liability and data breach response as well. What they have done is basically because of the exponential claims when it comes to cyber liability and data breaches, they've made it more formal. We have an interlocal for all those other components of the insurance that we have through TML. But their board has said we need to do this for cyber liability and data breaches. Now, for us, it really didn't change our fee that we pay. It's about $1,200. There are some cities that are gonna see, I think the larger cities, they're gonna see significant increases. And that's not to say that we couldn't see increases too, but, they do an audit every year. They look at, the entire landscape, TML, IRP, looks at the entire landscape. when they're developing those pricing for their various cities. So that's what this is. Basically, they're formalizing it into an interlocal before it hasn't been an interlocal. We have an interlocal on the other ones that you guys did many years ago, but now that they're requiring that for this, what's coming before you.
Something we can use, no doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the
we
way
need that
things-
protection, for sure.
Things are, okay? No questions, have a motion, please.
I move to approve the cyber liability and data breach response coverage interlocal and authorize the city manager to sign the documents.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor? None opposed, thank you, guys. Item 15, discussion and necessary action on 2023 certificate of obligation fund status and updating park projects.
So as you know, we brought this to you last month and we did add some park features that you guys approved. And essentially what that was, there was 600,000 designated for parks, 600,000 for public works facilities. I didn't think we probably would be spending all the 600,000 at public works facilities, but that was the, the estimated. You guys did approve adding some components to the park and you see that. If you'll go to that slide that shows. Oh, you don't have, well, you have it in your packet. So we added shade structures, playground, the smaller playground, the soft serve under the dinosaur, the lights at Booker T ballpark. I'm bringing this back because the volleyball, sand volleyball has been so popular. I'm just, it's a pretty low level. I mean, it's basically going to be 15 to 18,000 to add another sand volleyball court, a second one. We would not light it. But what that allows them to do, with the league that they have, they'd be able to get more leagues in, and then finish, in the dark on the lighted one. But it would also allow if there's somebody there other than the league, going on, there'd be, another one there if it were not reserved. So, the other, item we did have a complaint. I mean, one that I know of, but they keep mentioning this complaint. And I understand it, but the swing set doesn't have a cover. And so trying to get, obviously not as big a tarp as it's over the playground, right? But trying to get a shade structure over the swing set, so, people can actually swing on it and not burn their legs. That approximate cost is, gonna be, I think we've tightened up those numbers, by getting some quotes, but I have 15 to 25,000 there. So that total would be another 43,000. That still would leave a delta below that 1.2 million of 100,000. And again, that would be any delta then would go to streets.
No questions? All right, motion, please.
Move to approve staff request to fund additional park improvements.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. All right. Item 16, discussion and necessary action regarding the fiscal 2024, 2025 preliminary budget. This will be for feedback. This is no action taken on it, so.
So we've had several meetings on budgetary items. A lot of it has been, in context of the strategic plan. We had that strategic planning session back at the end of 22, and that included input from staff, from you all, from community leaders, from the general public. I mean, that's where the splash pad came out of. So this is all in that context. During that, we came up with core values, and we came up with, we didn't have a vision or mission statement. And so we came up with these, and I think it's important. I think it's been helpful to make sure that we're all on the same page. I mean, I need to know what you guys want. I mean, I can tell you what staff needs, but, you know, it's also about having goals and consistently working towards the same ones, reevaluating those, as we go forward. So, I think these are important to remember, the core values. I mean, we do embrace creative solutions and innovative ideas that help the city flourish. Promote being responsible and faithfully serving our citizens, to create a community where everybody can thrive. We really emphasize excellence, we give each day our best effort because we know our work makes a difference. I mean, we really promote that with our staff, helping them understand it doesn't matter if they're down, repairing a sewer line or, they're on the front lines of a fire. Everything, or the person doing the accounting, everything that we do works together to serve the citizens, and they're all valuable. And we want to be excellent at doing it. Being compassionate, we want to remember who we serve, and we serve the citizens, and we want to be compassionate. It was also when we were generating these, it's just recognizing that this is a close-knit community of people. There's family ties and there's historical ties that go back and that go deep. And so we want to respect that. And of course, being knowledgeable, we want to do the best that we can. And we're committed to professional development for our staff so that we can equip them to do the best jobs that they can. So I like to kind of start off with that. I mean, we have 5 main goals and we've kept it pretty simple. There are objectives under each of the goals that you all have, and I can send those out again, but it's invest in infrastructure, invest in employees, invest in beautifying Breckenridge, promote economic development, tourism, and Breckenridge as a destination, promote transparency and communication. And you'll see every expenditure tied to one of these things or one of the sub things in the budget. So I'm kind of bottom lining it, and then I'm going to go into some details. So essentially, where are the increases in the budget? We were able to do employee raises last year, and so we are promoting that again this year. Right now, I will say, and I'll get into the details, what's included in this preliminary budget. They can change when we get the certified values, but it's a 2% increase and some equity adjustments as well. The fleet maintenance program, continuing to fund that. And then the code enforcement officer, I've been talking about that for a long time. I mean, Malcolm has done a great job. It's just he's one man and he's got 3 other jobs or 5 other jobs. And so having a code enforcement officer will really help us beautify Breckenridge. And so those are where the main increases are. There's other increases. I mean, there's just materials are continually rising, products are rising, chemicals for our water, wastewater operations. I mean, the chemicals have increased exponentially. We really felt that last year was a big increase, and they're still increasing. So there's other things that are on there. I mean, our IT service, we have a third-party IT service, and that was the year before, they didn't have very much of an increase. This year, there's a little bit more of an increase. So this is a certified values history, all except for 2024. So the one on the far right is actually a preliminary value, but you will notice that generally, I mean, it kind of flattened out in COVID between 2019, 2020. It's kind of been going up, and I know Will has been working on trying to make sure that they've got realistic values. And so I think you can see some of that. Of course, the economy and inflation and all that, contributes to that. But unfortunately, the preliminary values went down. Now, I have talked with Will several times. He does feel like when the appraiser was very conservative. And so he feels like we'll probably, it's all probably, we don't know, but we're probably would be at 283, right around there. So not a big change, but at least not a decrease. So we'll see. But that's why we have the budget that we have now. So this is just a review of the truth in taxation process and Senate Bill 2. That kind of changed it and changed some definitions, but basically, we draft a budget, it's preliminary first, we get certified values at the end of July, 25th or 27th. We calculate that tax rate, we do publishing the notices, we hold public hearings, adopt the budget, adopt the tax rate, and that is all prescribed by the Texas Tax Code, Chapter 26. And these are the components. I'm not gonna go into detail, but they did change the definitions in Senate Bill 2 3 years ago. So you got the no new revenue rate, and that's, basically, it used to be called the effective rate. So that's the rate that provides the same amount of revenue received last year. And you got the voter approval rate, the de minimis rate, and the unused increment rate. And again, that's all out of the tax code, Chapter 26 as well. So again, kind of bottom line right now, this budget is based on, we did stay under the voter approval rate of 1.18. And the proposed tax rate is an increase of 1.07. It'd be 1 penny and a half. Last year it was 3 cents. So you can see that, you can see the other rates. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time because I do think that I feel like if we do have an increase in the value, we'll be able to bring that tax rate down. The other thing I would say is if we have room, even though I have a 2% in the budget right now, I am gonna try to get a 3% in there if it's possible, if that value goes up. I'm gonna try to do that. This just shows you, it's kind of a line basically of where the history, 10-year history of the tax rate. So it's kind of gone up, it's kind of been coming down. So that's what that slide shows you. And I like doing this little house graphic. It compares last year to this year. So in the average value in Breckenridge, and this is the average value, is 175. I know we have houses that are more than that, but we've got quite a few that are less than that. Last year's tax rate at 1.05471, that tax rate on a house of 175,000 was 1846. This year, you take those same numbers, it would be 1873, which is about a $27 tax increase for the, again, this is the average price of a home. Just going over the debt again, you can see general fund is in red, and then almost at the bottom, you see 2023 COs. That is supported by the general fund. Everything else, remember, we moved that debt really where it needed to go in the water wastewater fund. And so you see the debt there, the 2020, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2017 A and B, 2022 A and B, and that's those are underway right now. And then of course the COs, and then you have on there included in this is the 2024 lead sewer line replacement. And remember that this is for the inventory only. This is coming down from the feds. And this is the first part of that. We'll have 10 years to actually, once we inventory where those lead service lines are, then we will be required to replace those. Now there is, grant funding. Some of it is loan forgiveness and some of it is just low interest or no interest. So, that's where we're at with our debt. And just as a reminder, we were able, last year, we had about 1.46 million and some change that we were able to pay down 2012 and 2017 A and 2017 B. So the principal that you see over there is with paying that down last year. Well, we did it actually this year. Is there any question on that? Okay. And then on the certificates of obligation, just as an update, now I have the streets on there at the top that were completed. Primarily sales tax was used. you know, because we had a balance building up in our fund. And that was Elliott, Rose and Seventh, and then various intersections. We did use some CO money on that. And then right now, you know, we have a street improvement plan. We've talked about that several times. We have the short term, which was those projects that are already completed. We've got the midterm, which is the 2 to 5 year, and then we've got the long term, which I don't have on there, but the 2 to 5 year, if you'll remember, we onboarded the engineer to be working on that project. It's gonna be $5 million worth of road improvement project starting later this summer. And that's the way I've broken it down there. If you look at the city in quadrants, southeast is, you know, with the coordinates being, you know, 183 and 180. That's the dividing. So southeast is gonna be south of 180 and east of 183. And then northeast will be north of Walker, 180, and east of 183. And then northwest is west of 183 and north of Walker and southwest. So those are the streets and that are on the books to get improved starting this late summer. We may not get to them all by December, by this paving season, but we'll finish up that project next year. And we'll still have more in our fund, you know, basically another 2 million to do additional projects with that. The parks, majority of those projects are completed. There's still some underway, but those are the big ones. And then the public works facility, I would say it's probably 50% complete. So we've got the 2 storage buildings. One is gonna be a shop and then one will be for inventory. And then we've got basically a covering for our equipment. I don't like calling it a lean-to, but that's what we're calling it. It's open sided, you know, it's open to the north. So the back and the top and sides are closed in. It will have electricity, it will have lighting. And that he's got some of the frame up on that, and Donnie Sechrist won that bid, RFP, I should say. Some of the structures are up for that lean-to, and the shop and the storage facility are just about done. A little bit of electrical still needs to be done. You guys approved a couple of change orders to that, and that was the foam insulation, and then, which was about 20,019, and then, the shelving, which was about, 21. So that shelving is in there as well, so they're finishing up the electrical on that, and then he'll finish up with that room too. He feels, I talked with him yesterday, and even though we gave him extra time, you know, the goal was to get done this summer, and I think he'll be done, you know, by the end of summer. So that's an update on the COs. Okay, staffing levels, you know, basically this graph shows you where our staffing is by function. You know, police is 20 and animal control is 21%, public works is 21%, fire is 13, streets is 6, public services, which is cemetery and parks, is 5. And seasonal is, you know, 27. Of course, that's, we have a couple seasonal in the parks, and then of course our swimming pool. And then admin is 7. We do have total 67 total positions. I wanted to note the current vacancies. If you remember last year, right now they're 4. So we've got a public works director, convenience station, and 2 in our water department. Well, I would say, you know, collections and distribution. Last year at this time, it was 15. So the work that you guys are doing in, you know, really, you guys have been very supportive of the increases for salary, but also increases, you know, public works facilities, the vehicle replacement. You know, when we, you know, not having a 10-year-old vehicle that looks like you never know what, you know, it's driving around town, it gives people pride in their city. Not only employees, but citizens as well. But I think we're seeing a difference. I mean, right now, I mean, police is fully staffed, fire is fully staffed. So that's great news. What are you saying over
I
there?
told him it's because I'm such a nice guy.
I was gonna say, they really will work.
So the general fund balance, we're doing very well. And you'll see our general fund is one, our water fund balance and our wastewater fund. So I'm gonna chalk that up to conservative spending. I'm gonna chalk that up to, an uptick in development, as well as, if you look at this, I mean, you can see from 21, I mean, we're very strong. Our fund balance is very strong. I mean, at the end of the audit, that we got for 23, we've got 1.5 million in general fund. In the water fund, we have 1.6. You can see now that is also, I'm gonna say, with the water wastewater rate increases. Remember those increases, there were certain assumptions that went into that, and you guys did when you passed the rate increases, you were the most aggressive, which I think was very smart because it allows us to address an aging infrastructure. So we are doing that. So progress is being made, and we're in a good, healthy financial situation. And then you can see the wastewater fund, we're at 1.3, almost 4, 1.393. So that's, it's a good feeling to have that fund balance. This is an all fund revenue comparison over prior years. So this is including general fund, water fund, and wastewater fund. And so you can see really the revenue by and large, other than the water fund and wastewater fund, due to rate increases, hasn't changed much. But I really kind of want to show with that chart. This is all fund revenue where the sources are. So all the revenue that comes in, 22% is coming from property tax, 19% is coming from sales tax, 1% from hotel motel. Fines, fees, penalties, licenses, permits is 7%, 29% is the water fund, 17% is the wastewater, and then 5% is the sanitation. So that's kind of a picture of that. And then when you look at just the revenue alone comparison over the prior year, again, it kind of shows what the other graph did. I just separated it out from general fund only. And then general fund, the revenue source as a percentage, 46% comes from the property tax, 38% from sales tax, miscellaneous is 1%, fines, fees, penalties, licenses, and permits is 14%, and then the hotel motel is 1%. So that's, I mean, as a percentage and as a best practice, I mean, that's a pretty good percentage breakdown. There are some cities that, they get a lot of their revenue from sales tax, and the problem with that is very volatile. So you kind of want to be careful with that. I mean, you can't help it. You're certainly not going to kick a horse in the mouth, right? But if you start depending on that and then it's not there the next year, it's harder to make up. This is a sales tax history, and you can see the volatility even here with this chart. I did put current year in red. You can see that we have been trending down. Actually, for the last 2 years, we have been trending down in our tax, sales tax collections. We are right now kind of on an up, hopefully, I mean, over last year, finally, because every other month we've been behind. But that shows you that volatility, I think. But it also shows you, it also shows you that, there are some months, I mean, they're consistent. I mean, it goes up in November and January, February, May, so I think it's interesting to see the trends there. On the sales tax distribution, of course, is cities can do up to 2%. I mean, the state, 6.25 goes to the state. We do have 2% when using the full 2%. 1% stays in general fund. 0.5% goes to BEDC, and so that's how we, one of the ways we promote economic development is through the BEDC. They do a great job, and Dave is doing a great job with that. We do, we just had the re-election for dedicating 0.25% to our streets, and I'm glad. I think that's helpful for us because it just makes us take that money and spend it on streets, and we need it. And, we had built it up, and we were able to spend, 800,000 on those roads. By the time we're done with the CO funds, that fund will be built up again, and then we'll be able to do additional streets in our street improvement plan in those out years. And then you will see that, 0.25% also goes to reduce property tax. So that does help the citizens, that we're taking part of that and dedicating it toward reducing that property tax rate for everybody. So the general fund expenditures by function, change that. This just shows you, public safety, basically takes up 50%. So between police and fire, municipal court is 1%, facilities is 2%, public services is 8%, and that's again parks and cemetery. Streets is 8%, administration's 11%, and then non-departmental. And non-departmental is going to include things like our IT. It's our third-party IT. It's going to include our software. It's going to include our insurance. And when I say insurance through TML, property, workers' comp, it's the lion's share of that. I showed you the comparison of the prior year with all the fund revenue. So here you just see the fund revenue for water, wastewater for this year. On the water side, it's 2.9, and on the wastewater, it's 1.7. And then on the wastewater fund expenditures, again, collections and distribution represents about 21, and that's, your water, your meter, water leaks and all of that, and it's the lines basically, and then the sewer lines. The water treatment plant is 21%, the wastewater treatment plant is 10%, Lake Daniels is 1%, admin is 7%. Non-departmental, again, that represents some software, it represents debt, and that also, the debt is in there. So that's what that represents. This is a little bit better breakdown, and I will send this to you guys so you will have it. And I'm happy to, last year I provided the actual, and I'll do this after we get the certified values, but the actual, it was like this thick of a budget. It was just the line item of what comes out of our financial software. So it goes into more detail, which I'm happy to provide to you guys. This just basically summarizes the revenue over last year to this year. You have that comparison, and then it gives you an explanation for the increases. You're going to see as we go, the explanation is primarily what I've already kind of pointed out: salary increases, fleet vehicles, the code enforcement officer. So you can see that. I'll give this to you and go line by line unless you guys want me to. Okay. Okay, water fund, same thing. I'm comparing the revenue from this last year over this year and what the reason. So like on the charges for service, the increased rates, and then we were selling wholesale to Stevens Regional Water. In 21, they stopped taking water. We budgeted for them to take water in 22, but then it went down, and they did start taking water again. We've had conversations with them, and so they are taking water again. So we're selling it to them. And you can see, the water sewer communications, and basically that's the front desk people, water meters. Remember that used to be 2 people and now it's 1 person, with the automatic meter readers. You got like Daniel's on there, water treatment plant, collections and distribution, the public works director, and then non-departmental. And then here's the wastewater fund. So, the big difference here, just between these, remember, the water collections and distribution used to straddle water and sewer fund. Really for trending and paying attention to, the expenditures. Last year in the budget, I combined those. So I took the, collections out here, and put it into department, that was 76, and I put it into 74, which is all in the water fund. So there were some, bigger differences, in prior years. Last year, you're gonna start seeing those even out. Okay, and then this is just a summary, again, tying it back to our, strategic plan and what those expenditures align with. So it is a potential increase on the property tax rate of 1.5 pennies, increased pay for existing employees, and that is goal 2. New position code enforcement officer aligns with goals 3 and 4. Vehicle replacement program aligns with 1 and 2. The general fund debt for the COs is streets, parks, and public works facilities, so that's goals 1, 2, and 3. And then the fund debt is goal 1 and inventory. And then again, I still have funding in there for maintenance of the Consolas Creek, and that's goal 3. It doesn't mean, there are other things in our budget that are, smaller. I'm trying to highlight, the big dollar things. There are other things in there with our website with, we're onboarding a new project, a communications tool, Text My Gov, that you guys will be seeing on our website. It's another way for us to communicate with residents and residents to communicate with us. And so we have been onboarding things that are with the transparency and communication. And I think, one of the things, and I pointed this out before, but our Facebook, Jessica does a great job, she primarily does it, we work on it together. But we have increased our followers, almost double fold, since I've been here, so it's been pretty dramatic. We're trying, and we can always improve, and we want to improve. Our goal is to communicate. We've had several public meetings trying to involve people. That's our goal, is to communicate with people and give them information. We do have, and I've talked about this before, but there's a lot of questions about our high water sewer bills. And they are high, but you have to remember, we're a city that has infrastructure for 30,000, that was built primarily in the 30s and 40s. And now that is 100 years old, and, we're playing catch up because for whatever reason, and this is long before you guys, we really weren't keeping up with the infrastructure. And so I feel like, we're doing a good job, but it's a big task. We've got 80 miles of water line, we've got 45 miles of sewer line, we've got 66 mile of road, and we're making progress, but, it's a big challenge. But I feel like, you guys have taken action in supporting staff, and, making progress within the city. So, I think we're on the right track, but we've kind of talked about this several times, but if there's feedback, if there's something in there, if you see something tonight, communicate with me. If you see something later, after I send this to you, please communicate with me if there's things that we're missing, let us know.
I'd like to say, and I know we all feel like this, and such a big thank you to all of you ladies, all of them, and ones that are not here, what it takes to put this together each month, each week, it's a weekly, you know. And just a thank you, my gosh.
Well, and it is a team effort.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, it's definitely a team effort. Diane does, it's incredible, and I'm very thankful for her. I mean, the department heads, you know, we've involved them in the budget more in the last couple of years. And, you know, I'm kind of holding them more accountable for their budgets. But, you know, I think they appreciate having the information and being more involved in it. And so it just doesn't happen by one person. It's a group effort. And it takes, you know, it takes y'all's support of staff. And I know I've talked with many staff and they appreciate the support that you guys continually show for them. You know, police and fire last year, you know, they got a substantial raise and you guys supported that. And now we have both departments, so.
Well, I will personally take credit for the next few months on the water bill that I've helped increase. Believe me. But I've got water to keep everything alive, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody good at this point? Any idea for next month? You got anything you want them to put on coming month? Y'all all through?
So just as a reminder to put things on the agenda, I mean, you guys let us know at this meeting, or let me and Jessica both know, after the meeting, but we do need that by the Wednesday, of the week before, because we try to get everything ready.
Yeah.
Come on, Matt Dash. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
For Friday morning.
This meeting is adjourned at 7:37 p.m. Thank all of you. Appreciate all of you so much. Oh, I was told not to use that. I hit it too hard.